Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday morning, April 13th. Two big stories right now across the nation in terms of the world of weather. First of all, we have a continuation of a snowstorm across portions of the northern plains. The especially hard hit state is North Dakota, where they certainly can end up with anywhere from 20 to 25 inches of snow from this particular late season snowstorm. And again, it continues to fall. Accumulations continue to pile up across North Dakota. That whole storm system moving slowly to the north and east into the south central part of Canada. The cold air mass that has allowed for that snowstorm up across the northern Rockies and the northern plains is sliding to the south and east right now, and it is going to clash with an increasingly humid and very warm air mass that is flowing to the north from the Gulf of Mexico, likely leading to, unfortunately, a severe weather outbreak later today and tonight across a good part of the Mississippi Valley region into the Tennessee Valley. Let's take a look at the latest radar map from WSI's Intellicast.com. First of all, snow shows up here in blue, and here we go. This is still accumulating snow across North Dakota and all the way into south central part of Canada. Even some snow just north of the Great Lakes right now. A lot of cold air around. There was snow associated with this system all the way to the coast of the Pacific Northwest. Portland, Oregon, for example, I believe had the latest official inch of snow ever recorded in that part of the Pacific Northwest. And certainly there was accumulations across Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and now especially hard hit North Dakota and the very northwestern part of South Dakota had some substantial snowfall as well. This is continuing to push to the north and east in terms of that surface low pressure system. But look what we see right here. This is the leading edge of that cold air with some snow, and just ahead of it in the warm sector we have the development already of some strong bands of showers and thunderstorms showing up here in yellow and green. So here is your clash zone right here. Let's get rid of all that. The colder air is pushing in from the north and west. And again, we talked yesterday about, and for the past several videos, about the continuation of cold air outbreaks into the U.S., and that will continue the threat for severe weather outbreaks. Indeed, the clash zone later today and tonight right across the Mississippi Valley region into the Tennessee Valley. This whole region right here with warm, humid air flowing to the north out of the Gulf of Mexico, and that very cold air sliding in from the north and west, and it's setting us up, unfortunately, for some severe thunderstorm activity, maybe even some isolated tornadoes later today and tonight. Here's in fact the latest forecast from NOAA's Storm Prediction Center in terms of the probability of severe weather, and I totally agree with their sentiment here that there's a pretty moderate chance of severe weather across the Mississippi Valley region and extends into Tennessee Valley right here. MDT, that stands for moderate chances. ENH, enhanced chances, and this whole region is under the gun later on today into the nighttime hours. Again, right along the Mississippi River and spreading into the Tennessee Valley with the colder air sliding into the south and east. Again, the snowstorm continuing right now across this region right here. This is all in the warm sector right now with a warm, humid airflow coming out of the Gulf of Mexico into the Mississippi Valley region. The classic setup here for severe weather. Again, unfortunately, this threat will include the likelihood for at least isolated tornadoes later today and tonight. Well, let's take a look at last night's NAM model run. This is from 06Z last night, and we're first looking here at 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Just look at how cold this air is out here over the western half of the nation. This kind of a color purple here suggests right down here you're talking 20 plus degrees below normal for the middle part of April. We are now at April 13th. This is very cold air, certainly relative to normal, and certainly it was conducive to producing accumulating snow all the way from the coastal region of the Pacific Northwest across the northern Rockies into the northern plains, and now that storm system is pushing north and east into the south central part of Canada. Meanwhile, on the warm side of this storm system, very warm air today, likely to hit 80 degrees in D.C. and Philadelphia and well up in the 70s in New York City, perhaps the warmest day of the spring season so far, with this flood of mild air from the Gulf of Mexico into the eastern half of the nation. But this sets up this clash zone, basically this cold frontal system right here as we begin the day here, and watch as that slides to the east. We're moving along in hourly increments. Here we are now all the way into this evening, about 8 p.m. this evening. And again, the Mississippi Valley region right here into the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, that's the area, the threat zone area for severe thunderstorms, including the possibility of isolated tornadoes. Still 20 plus degrees below normal this evening across Montana, Wyoming, and some of the Dakotas. Again, North Dakota, some spots will have 20 plus inches of snow on the ground to go along with that cold air. Now, on the day Thursday, that cold front loses a little bit of its strength, but by the time we get into Thursday morning here, that frontal system slides into the Ohio Valley. Still a very warm day on Thursday. Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S., 80 plus degrees on Thursday afternoon in D.C., Philadelphia, maybe even New York City. And that frontal system, albeit in a weakened state, can still produce some strong thunderstorms later tomorrow into tomorrow evening in the I-95 corridor region. And that front passes on through, and cooler air moves into the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast U.S. by the time we get to Friday morning. Here we are now, Friday morning. Not cold. And in fact, it's still rather decent temperatures expected on Friday, but probably about 10 degrees cooler or so from Thursday afternoon to Friday afternoon. Let's say 80 degrees to 70 degrees in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. But look at this cold air, still poised up across the northern plains, the Pacific Northwest, come early Friday, and that will make a push into the south and east and reaches the Mid-Atlantic region by the time we get to Easter Sunday. This is as far out as this model goes, 84 hours here into the middle of the day on Saturday. But believe me, that cold frontal system, which is lying right in this region right here, comes Saturday midday, continues to push to the south and east. So temperatures will drop in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast U.S. for Easter Sunday. It looks like going from highs in the 80s potentially today and tomorrow to maybe 70 degrees on Friday, probably the 60s on Saturday, and then confined to the 50s on Sunday, below normal for this time of the year across the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast U.S. as that colder air arrives following the passage of a cold front on Saturday night. Now let's take a look at the vorticity field as we begin the day here on Wednesday. And notice right here we have kind of a forerunner of a system out ahead of the main upper level low, which is stationed back here with that snowstorm across the Dakotas. This is an impressive a potent little wave here that is going to contribute to the upward motion later on this afternoon into tonight, right in this Mississippi Valley region, the Tennessee Valley region, contributing to the likelihood for strong to severe thunderstorms. Again, later on today into the night, there is very likely to be a squall line that forms along that cold frontal system, and it will slide from west to east across the deep south, across the Tennessee Valley, the Mississippi Valley. Places like Huntsville, Alabama, for example, northern Alabama may experience strong to severe thunderstorms later on tonight, maybe even in the overnight hours as that cold front arrives at that time. And here we go. Only moves slowly. Look at the little dip right here. This is a potent little wave, and again, it's contributing to the upward motion in the Ohio Valley, the Mississippi Valley, and then we have a little bit of extra push in the atmosphere by early tonight with that system to the north and west sliding to the east here. And again, this is all contributing to the instability across the Mississippi Valley, the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and even down across the deep south. Again, don't be surprised for some severe thunderstorms down across the deep south. By the time we get into Thursday morning, the whole cold frontal system weakens a little bit, but it pushes into the eastern states, and indeed there can be some strong thunderstorms later tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night in the I-95 corridor region, and then that front slides on through by Friday morning. Here we are now by Friday morning, and it'll turn somewhat cooler, still rather decent on Friday afternoon in the Mid-Atlantic region in the northeast U.S., but ultimately by the latter part of the upcoming weekend, pretty much the entire northern part of the U.S. will be colder than normal. It'll be warmer than normal down here and colder than normal across the entire northern U.S. by the time we get to Sunday, Easter Sunday, including colder than normal in the Mid-Atlantic and the northeast U.S. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps. Again, we're using the NAM model here, the 6Z run of the NAM model. Dark blue, accumulating snow. That's moderate to heavy snow right now across North Dakota and up across south central part of Canada. And here we go. Watch this area right here as we go through hourly increments. And this is that frontal system we were talking about a moment ago. Right here, in fact, you can see kind of the dip in the isobar pattern here, right in this region right here. This is that strong cold front at the surface by the time we get to the middle of the day today. You can see some blue right here. This is colder air, very cold air relative to normal, piling into the south and east from the north and west. Meanwhile, look at the isobar pattern right here. We have warm, humid air flowing out of the Gulf of Mexico into the Tennessee Valley, the Mississippi Valley, setting up that clash zone here. Let's go forward in time. And here's the squall line that I believe will develop right along that cold frontal system by this evening. This is the 8 o'clock Eastern Time forecast map, and this is the main area of concern in terms of severe weather possibility. A squall line forming right along that strong cold frontal system as it slides from the northwest to the southeast. At this particular time, it's just now over the Mississippi River Valley here, but it continues to push eastward into the overnight hours. And again, places like northern Alabama may not experience the severe thunderstorm threat until about midnight or so. A little bit unusual than normal. Normally it's maybe 3, 4, 5 p.m. to 7, 8, 9 p.m. But this threat will occur across places like Alabama, maybe Georgia, even Mississippi, well into the nighttime hours. So be on the lookout for that in the overnight hours. Meanwhile, the storm still raging with snow all the way into the overnight hours across North Dakota. And again, some places will end up with 2 feet of snow on the ground and temperatures some 20 plus degrees below normal. And here's that squall line by the wee hours of the morning into the deep south. So be on the lookout in the overnight hours in this part of the nation. That, of course, is the most dangerous time for any kind of tornadic activity because people are sleeping and not paying attention to some warnings that may be shown on television or heard on the radios here. But be on the lookout for possible overnight and wee hour of the morning type strong to severe thunderstorms in the deep south and also in the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley. This then translates to the eastern U.S., albeit in a slightly weakened form. By the time we get to on Thursday, by the time we get to the middle of the day on Thursday, the front at the surface will be right around in this region right here. Again, watch for the possibility of some strong storms right along the eastern seaboard by the time we get into later tomorrow afternoon, right there with that kind of a line developing here, maybe mid-afternoon on Thursday into the evening hours. So watch out for that. Won't be anything like what we'll experience this afternoon, this evening across the Mississippi and Tennessee Valley region and Ohio Valley and deep south. But there can be some strong thunderstorms later on tomorrow into tomorrow night. Then the work week ends with slightly cooler air reaching the Mid-Atlantic region, reaching the northeast, but a second cold front arrives on Saturday night, and that ushers in much colder air for Easter Sunday into the Mid-Atlantic region, into the northeast U.S. And by the time we get to Easter Sunday, pretty much the entire northern part of the nation, from west coast to east coast, will be below normal, while the southern U.S. remains above normal for the second half of the upcoming weekend. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.